Hello and welcome to In Stitches. Today I'm going to talk about a problem that crops up with these Globe Lock M series Sergers, otherwise known as Overlockers. The branding is not always Globe, they're otherwise known as Frister Rossmann. I think even White do an exact model, just a rebadged version, but this particular one's Globe. Sold at banana shops here in New Zealand anyway. And this is the M23A, it's a 3-thread version. There's also the 4-thread version, which is the M34. And the problem with them is they're getting to an age where there's a gear that's starting to fail in them. And I just wanted to go through and let you know that it is a problem that's cropping up. I would personally be very wary of buying one of these. Anything that looks like this here, unless you can get in and have a really good check of the machine before you buy it. And the reason is because the gear is very difficult to change. They're still available, but there's quite a bit of labour involved. I'll show you how to quickly check for the problem. You have to physically have the machine. It's not something you could do, via an online purchase or anything like that. It's not really possible because you do it by feel. Just the quick test anyway. The visual test is probably a bit more reliable, but a lot more involved. So anyway, let's get straight to it here. This is just a quick way of checking whether the gear is failing. If you just slowly turn the wheel, you may feel it gets a little bit tight at one point. And if we take notice of where that point is, it's getting tight about here where the arrow's in this position here. And then it comes free again, turning nicely there, tight again, and that same point. So I can pretty much guarantee that this machine has got a split gear. And we'll see that soon. Now, that's not to say that the machine doesn't have another issue that's causing the tight spot. There could be other reasons why that tight spot's there, but generally it's because of the split in the gear. If you want to be 100% sure, is you take the base of the machine off. I'll just get rid of these threads sitting on the thread stand here. It's actually probably better to tip it on its side because the thread stands can be a little bit delicate. You don't really want to be leaning the machine on the thread stand there. First thing to do is just to quickly whip the motor cover off here. Get away with a Phillips there, just 2 screws on the bottom there. Phillips or straight head, flat head. Nice and easy to check the motor brushes there too, by the way. But I'm seeing a lot of these with broken gears. I'm seeing a lot of them online for sale. And as I say, I wouldn't trust it unless you can get it checked out. And in fact, I wouldn't even go there, to be honest. No disrespect to this machine at all. They are beautiful machines when they're running. They are really nice, really smooth, capable machines. The only thing is they don't have a differential feed, but that's not a huge deal. But the only time I would ever buy one is if it had the gear replaced, because the gear's not cheap for a start, and as I said before, the labour is quite substantial. Now so we've just got the 4 base screws off there, and the bottom should just come off like that. I'll get you in for a close look here. So what we're looking at here is we want to get this cover, remove this cover here. Now just be careful, there are a couple of wicks here that are mounted on this little holder, and you just don't want to put any strain on the oil wicks there. So first of all, just loosen that, or remove this screw here. It's got the little holder attached to it. Just gently push that aside, and then just this next screw here. So you'll see that it's reasonably easy to get in here. There's the cover there. You'll see the little gearbox here full of grease. It's the original grease, you can tell because it's sort of a yellowy type colour. But if we have a look here, we will see, more than likely, a split. Sometimes it can be quite hard to see. It's around about here somewhere. So I'm just looking at where it gets tight. So it's where these gears are meshing up in here. Getting a little bit tight there. About there. So just bringing the gear around, and if we have a little clean up in this area here, we might be able to see it. Now I've just had a little clean around the area here. I've just got a rag here and cleaning in between the teeth here, and this one's very subtle actually. It's not cracked too badly at all. In fact, the machine will probably still sew. But it will be noisy, and this crack will only progressively get worse as the machine gets used. I'll see if I can get you in close enough to actually see the crack. I can see it quite clearly just with the naked eye here, but I'll get you in closer, real close here. You can see the split in here, you see. That there is just a little bit of gunk, so it looks sort of similar. But if you clean the gear, that's pretty clean. You know, that those two teeth either side are not all that clean, so they sort of look as though they might have splits in them as well, but that's just old grease. Let's see if I can, I've got the camera really close, so it's hard to get in here as well. But if we just clean that area, so you can see that, you know, I've cleaned that tooth there up. There's no split in the middle there, but definitely splitting here. And as I say, that's quite subtle. I had to really have a good close look at that, and I picked that up mainly by feel. So I don't know how long this would carry on sewing for. They get to a point where they split quite badly. That split opens up and you can hardly turn the wheel past the you know, the split, so it actually sort of seizes the machine up. Okay, so yep, that one's not too bad. I'll show you a really bad one. I've got a good example of a severely cracked gear. Well, here's an example of a severely cracked gear. Try and get you in close here. Now, yeah, you can see right down into there. If I get my screwdriver, you know, you can actually see it separating there. See that? So that's what that other one will turn out like. It'll just crack completely like that. And once it gets to this stage, sorry, there's a little bit of water in this machine. It's been out in the graveyard. I've got a heap of these machines that have got the same issue that I've basically just been wrecking. And so yeah, they're sitting out in the rain. I've stripped all the useful parts off them. That wheel is almost impossible to turn when that crack gets around to the meshing part of the gear system here. It's almost impossible to turn past it. It just seizes completely. I can't get it much further than that. So we come back around. Yeah, it's completely gone there. Now replacing the gear is a right pain. This whole shaft here, it's the looper drive shaft. It's driving this here, which drives your lower looper. It also drives this here, which is your upper looper here. So you've got the main shaft. So the handwheel's up here. You've got your main shaft coming through, driving to this bevel gear here, and that in turn drives this metal gear here, which in turn drives this nylon gear. I guess it's nylon, which drives this shaft here, which has got these cams and you know, rods on there to drive the loopers. There's a counterbalance there. Yep. So it's pretty major getting that shaft out. It's a right pain in the butt, because where these screws tighten up onto the shaft, they've actually bitten into the shaft, and it makes the shaft very difficult to get out. And you can't drive this shaft straight out the front, because there's not enough room for it to come out the front here. There is no, you can't get it far enough this way to get this gear off. And so the only way is to drive the shaft this way, and you can't get any punch or anything like that directly onto the shaft, because there's just no hole in the casing here to get your punch through. That's not part of it. That's actually just that's your top looper pivot point there. So you have to sort of, yeah, work the shaft out gradually. As say, it's a right pain. So the total cost of the job is often just not worth it. I've done a couple of them for customers who they love these machines so much that they just wanted it fixed, and they spent the money getting it done, which is fair enough, you know. So that's an example of a very badly broken gear. So, you know, you can see this. Just falling apart, basically. You know. See if I can get it off. Get medieval on it. It's quite malleable, actually. Yeah, anyway. What happens is the plastic gear is actually formed onto that metal inner part there, this inner sleeve here. And what happens over time is the plastics outgas. So eventually they sort of release some sort of gas, I'm not sure, over a very long time, years. I mean, this is probably made in the 1980s, I think. Or would it be in the 90s? I've got a funny feeling it might be 1980s. So, you know, 40 years or more of outgassing. And the outgassing causes the plastic to shrink tighter onto this inner shaft here. And eventually the strain just builds up so much that the gear will crack. It's just got nowhere else to go. Now, I have seen models with a metal gear here. I've seen one out of, I don't know, it's probably 50 of these machines. So, you know, it's 2%, something like that. It wouldn't be very high. And I took note of the model number at the time, actually, and the model number had a -2. And if we have a look at the model number, this is an M34-7, and some of the ones I've been working on are just, I think, M34. And this particular one I noticed had a -2, and I thought, oh, well, you know, that'd be great if you just look out for the -2 model. You'll know that it's got the metal gear here, and you know that you're safe. You can go ahead and buy it. Yeah, but not the case. Unfortunately, the next -2 model I got in, I thought, oh, this will be no worries, and took this plate off, and there I saw a plastic gear there. So I'm not quite sure what the rhyme or reason is to which ones had the metal gears. If anyone knows, I would appreciate a comment. That would be great. If it's something to do with the model number or a serial number range, I'm not too sure. But if we have a look at this model, what's this one? M23A-7, so yeah, another -7 model. Not sure what it was about the -2, but it appeared to me as though only some of them have the metal gears. Yeah, it's a real shame actually, because they're a great machine. As I say, I really, really like these machines. They're beautifully made, apart from this plastic gear here. Yeah, if only they all had that metal gear. Okay, they might have been a little bit noisier. I'd rather have a machine that's slightly noisier. I mean, they're quite quiet and smooth anyway, you know. It wouldn't have made much difference, I'm sure, to the overall noise of the machine. Yeah, it's a bit disappointing to see that they had to resort to those plastic gears like that on that one. But Yeah, my customer brought the machine in to me because she wanted to sell the machine actually, and you know, she said to me, "Well, it's going, it's working," which, you know, you can see the little test piece here. Looks like it has been, and it would probably still work, as I say, but not for long. And she wanted me to check it out to make sure it was good to sell. She didn't want to sell anything that was going to be, you know, substandard or break down in the near future. So I'll need to let her know. Or actually, when she dropped it off, I did the quick test and I said to her right then, more than likely that gear's broken. And I told her that I'd confirm it, which I did just now. You might be able to see here, just as a matter of interest here, this is a 2 or 3 thread model. And it's actually set up for the two thread at the moment. It's got an adjustment here for a 2 or 3 thread. So that's the 3 thread mode. You would thread the thread through that little eye there, and you'd have a standard 3 thread. You flip the little switch to 2 thread, and it just changes the angle of this looper slightly and acts as a spreader rather than a looper. It's the upper looper. So yeah, the model number M23 refers to basically 2 thread or 3 thread, and obviously the M34 is either a 3 or a 4 thread. You can't do a 2 thread operation with that. I thought I'd show you sort of what to look out for if you are looking at getting one of these. So I'm saying, you know, avoid them, but, you know, don't take that as gospel. You might get lucky, you might find one that doesn't have a split gear. Who knows how long they'll keep going for. It's one of those things. It could last a week. It could start splitting in 5 years' time, 10 years' time. Who would know? It's one of those things, you just don't know. But it's a bit of a risk to take if you're spending a bit of money on one. If you picked one up for a very cheap price at a thrift shop or something like that, you got it really cheap, you don't have much to lose. You might get lucky and you might get some use out of it. But yep, no, I personally, if it's costing any amount of money, any reasonable amount of money, I would just steer clear of it, unfortunately. So yeah, I hope you found that helpful and or interesting. Thank you very much to my patrons on Patreon. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.